welcome back to week 2 of our Pixelhaze Design Challenge. Today we're going to be using Canva once again, and we're going to create what should hopefully be a very quick social media graphic. So you've probably seen this concept being around on Facebook or Instagram for a little while. We're going to do our take on the NHS with the Superman logo in there. It's not my idea. It's been used numerous times with numerous different effects. We're going to use it as a mini social media campaign with a couple of hashtags. So stay and save lives, and we'll probably put a little plug for Project Cabin Fever in there as well. And our main message is support the NHS. We're going to try something a little bit different today. So instead of me recording the 2 videos separately for the chalkboard session and then the design session, we're going to try and do it on the fly using my mobile phone. So in Zoom, you can switch over to share screen on a mobile device. Now I've got an iPhone and I'm working from a Mac, so I can use AirPlay, hopefully, to get this to work properly. So I've got it set up now so I can switch to my mobile device and then turn on screen mirroring, and hopefully we can see our mobile phone screen, which we can. What I'm going to do now is a little trick, is open the camera, and now you can see the camera and hopefully see me in there. Excellent. So we're going to bring this over to our tripod, and we're going to set it up so we can see the chalkboard through it. Excuse the slightly messy office, but hopefully you can see that and hopefully hear me. So I'm still using the same microphone, but we're switching over to the mobile camera to get this effect across. So what I'm going to do now is just do a very, very quick wireframe for the graphic before we move across to Canva. I probably wouldn't need to do it for this one because it's such a simple graphic, but in terms of demonstrating what we're looking to achieve, I think it's a good approach to do. So first of all, we're going to have a title. I'll probably bring the title in top third. I'm looking for a nice equal spacing around each of the areas. I normally wouldn't draw this on a wireframe, but just to give you an idea, we want to have nice chunky margins, which will be invisible around the outside of our graphic. We're then going to have our title, so support, blah, 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 blah. And then we're going to have the NHS logo. So try and remember it off the top of my head. I'll get a white piece of chalk. And we're going to have the N, H in the white. And this will be on a blue background throughout. And then we're going to have our Superman logo in there. And then we have our S within that logo. So as I said, this isn't my idea. I wish it was. If I can find the original designer who came up with this concept, or the person who came up with this concept, I will certainly share that as much as possible. But these will probably be a little bit chunkier. That hopefully gives you an idea of what we're looking to do. Then we're going to have a couple of hashtags. And then we may put them alongside each other or one above the other to see how it looks. But that's essentially all we're looking to create, something very simple, very streamlined, and we're going for square ratio. I think we're looking at about 1,000 or 1,200 pixels each way. This will be a template in Canva to allow us to get that nice square graphic. What I might also do is to put a border around the outside. So I might even put this, if it's on a blue background, put the white in. So it's got that nice, fresh, clinical look to it. And we have a sample for our graphic. So I'm now going to switch back to our computer screen. And we're going to now bring it to my Mac screen, and we're going to have a go at creating this in Canva. So I've done some of the prep work already. So hopefully now you can see my screen. And if we go back to the top of the screen, we can then create a design, or we can search for a design or a template. So in this case, we don't need to worry about the dimensions. It's going to be square. So if I just do a quick search for social media, 1080 by 1080 pixels. And we're going to go for a blank option. You can pick a starting template, as I've done previously, and manipulate that. This week, we're going to start from scratch. First up, I'm going to create a background. And we've got a series of options that we can choose from. So I'm just going to put a solid color in for now. We're going to leave that there, and then we're going to need to go away and get our inspiration from each of the resources that we've got available. So I've done a little bit of the legwork here. So I've done a quick Google search for Superman logo, and we can see the badge or the shield, should I say, there. We're not going to go for an exact replication of this. We're going to use a little bit of creative license to come up with our own version that ties into the NHS logo. Likewise, we're not going to go for exactly the same font for the NHS logo. We're going to do our own take on it. But it'll be close enough that you will understand the connection, obviously, and the two concepts as a tribute. But what I will do is I will pick the colors. So I've got a color picker tool that's built into Chrome, or it's a Google Chrome extension that you can install. And this is called Colorzilla, and it allows you to color pick from the screen. And you can see it's copied to clipboard. What it's copied is it's a hexadecimal color. Hexadecimal is a hash key followed by 6 different unique alphanumeric figures. And then we can see now that that's changed to our NHS color. So we want that as the backdrop. We're then going to use white then to complement it nicely, again keeping in with the NHS theme. So for creating borders, I've not actually done this before, so we'll have a look to see if there's any preset frame shapes available. So we're looking at hollowed out boxes. We've got one here. We'll give that a go. Yeah, that should do the job nicely. So I'm just moving it up to the top left-hand corner, and then I can use this arrow in the bottom right-hand corner to snap that to the full size. Once I've created the frame, I like the width of that as well. That's about perfect. I can then change it to white. And now we've got a white frame around it. What I could do is I could duplicate that frame, and I could nest one inside the other. At this point, I could change the color of the outer frame back to the blue, and then use this spaced frame, which again, when we're using it on multiple social media channels, that might give it a little bit more impact. So for now, we'll leave it like that. Now we've got our background in place, we can start building out the structure of this. So we next need to find a font. So if I go to text, and I could pick one of the pre-selected graphic structures here. I'm not going to, because I don't think we're going to find what we want in any of these. So I'm going to just add in a subheading. We're going to be changing that font in a bit, but first of all, I need to find something that ties in with this. So we're looking at a relatively bold font, which is sans serif. So there's no little details or what we call serifs on the font. Times New Roman is a good example of a serif font, probably the most famous example. Sans serif fonts are generally cleaner, straighter edges, a more modern typeset. So now with that logo or that text selected.
Sorry, I'm not sure.
Not sure why the echo chimed up there. With that text selected, I can now choose some fonts, and I've got lots of fonts readily available. So if I'm scrolling down through and just try and find one quickly, I think Rubik is quite a nice option here. I think that's one I've uploaded for a project in the past, so I can have a look at some options that are already in place From a time-saving perspective, I may go back and use Rubik for now, but there'll be lots of options that you can choose from. This one's probably a bit too rounded, but it does have the italic option. I think we'll go for this. So we want that to be our intro sentence, and we might just increase the letter spacing a tiny bit. So I might just change that to 20. You can either use a slider or type into the block, as shown there. The line height we don't need to worry about because we're going to be using separate text blocks for each of the sections on here. So if one final section, that'll be too small. So I'm going to bump it up. That's probably too large. So we're looking at somewhere in between. Might go for 36. I'll go for that for now. What I'm also going to do, just to make it easier to manage, is I'm going to change the alignment from center to left, because I'm going to go for alignment down the left-hand side here. And then what I'm going to do before doing the main section is I'm just going to duplicate this and then change and add the hashtag. I put one below as well. So we can see it starting to take shape. We're getting the overall structure that we're looking to achieve here. Obviously, we've got the main section next. So what I need to put in first is the NHS text. So I'm just going to copy or duplicate this one because it's in the white color ready to go. Change the text to NHS. I might decide at some point to actually separate the S so we can move that around independently to the N and the H. In fact, I'll do that now. So with two separate text boxes, I've changed each section. So we've got the N and the H and the S separately. We just might need to make a note of what size we have for each of the ones. So I'm going up to 144, which is the largest available. That's still not large enough for what we're after. We're also going to change it to bold. And we can see it's starting to take shape. What I'm going to do next is just change the spacing in between these letters to bring it in tighter. So if we reference the NHS logo, it's similar. It's not exactly the same font, but again, we're after an effect, a tribute, as opposed to recreating the exact thing. I can then scale up the S to match. One way, if you've separated it already before kind of checking the sizes, we've got 302 there. So what I could do is just change that to 302. That's not available for the drop down because it's too large, so we have to do that manually. And then obviously this hasn't been, we haven't put the S on it, the bold on the S yet. That's why it wasn't taking up as much space. We can then move that back into position. If we're worried about the alignment being out vertically, we can select both blocks now, select position, and align them to the middle. They were pretty good actually as it was, but that will just help, and then we can finally move that back. So we're getting there. We now need to do the most important part, which is adding the Superman badge into there. So we're going to have a look for that element and see if we've got that available on Canva, so we don't have to look elsewhere. I cheated earlier. I saw if there was any available, and we've got one there, and I think I'm going to add that one in for it. But so if I do a search for Superman, you could see there are a number of options come up, and then we'll select that badge. What I'm going to do now is position that. I'm going to bring the S to the foreground. Now what I've realized is it's selecting that because it's the top layer. So I'm just going to move the badge out of the way, and then I can move the S to the front and then move the badge behind it. I think that's the effect I'm going to go with. The badge is overlaying the H, but not the S. And then we may have to just shrink down the S. Well, we will have to do that so it fits within the frame. What we also might do is take the italic off this one. And we may eventually end up scaling up the badge anyway to get that larger. I don't really like the extra detail in here, like the drop shadow and the black line. So I think we're going to simplify this somewhat and just go for a really what we call flat design, where you have very few different colors being used. So we're going to go to the Superman logo and we're going to copy the classic red and yellow from here, again using the Colorzilla tool, and pick color from page. And we're going to select the yellow first. There's no requirement in terms of any set order for that, so it's whatever's convenient. Select the badge, and as we can see now, we can change all of these colors. So for the inside, we're going to change the yellow colors, and then the rest will all be in the same red. Actually, I quite like that yellow that's on there now, so I might just stick with that. So I'll just change those, and I might then see how the red looks for all three, or we could go back and add in a slightly bolder red. I think I'm going to go for a bolder red. And we don't have to worry about getting the exact colors. That's a bit too bold. I can manually tweak it now. And I might take it more towards this side, this color palette. So it's a little bit more of a cherry red as opposed to being more orange. I think that balances out nicely. Now, when I go to change the other color swatch, we can see that this red I've just added is available. And then I can change all three of the reds to be the same. So that's getting pretty close to what I want. We're very, very close to finishing this graphic now. If I select the S, I can again change that to our new red. And as we can see now, we've got a resemblance of the Superman logo. In fact, I think I'll probably take the bold off this one. Now, should I want to just straighten this line out here, if I was creating this graphic myself professionally, I'd use Adobe Illustrator. It would give me a lot more control over some of these elements, and I would be able to create something much nearer the real thing. That's not the aim of this design challenge. So we have to manage with the tools that we've got available. So with that in mind, I'm going to show you how you can use a little trick using a shape. I'm keeping it the same color as the yellow to taper off the bottom of that S. So if I go to Elements, get rid of the search term, then go down to Shapes, let's see all the shapes, and I'm going to select this triangle. I'm going to shrink it down, make sure it's at the front. I'm going to rotate it to roughly that position. We can fine tune it. I'm going to zoom right in on this as well, so we can see it a little bit closer. And I'm going to change that to the yellow to match our yellow triangle section. From here now, I can just position it over. So I'm masking the shape. As I said, with Adobe Illustrator or professional software, you can do this. You've got so many more tools available for this type of effect. We just have to make do a little bit here. But that just helps to bring it a little bit closer to the actual design. Not overly happy with that at the moment. Just have a look at the badge. Oh, actually, it's a circle. That's interesting. So how much time we got left? We've got plenty of time. Let's get rid of the triangle. We're going to add a square on here, and we're going to add a circle or an oval shape at the bottom. And we do this using the shapes again. Shrink that down to an oval shape, position to the front. So that's a lesson. It helps to look at the original content you're trying to replicate before plowing ahead. So once I've done that, now I can put that back to 100%. This happens on my computer every now and again, just goes to show when working live, we can run into problems. I'm going to have to refresh the browser window completely. In fact, I think I'm going to have to go back out of the system. What it's done is it's zoomed my browser window to a level that I can't access the tools. It happens from time to time. So what I have to do is close the graphic, go back to the main Canva window, and then go to all your designs, and it should be there. It'll save every 30 seconds or so. So it's not, so I haven't lost anything. I don't think I've lost anything in this instance, but sometimes we have to just do that. Don't panic if that happens. If we look at the other logo sample, we can see that that shape is tilted on an angle. And then we've got our square that we add to the right of that part of the S. And then it's just a case of positioning everything. And I think we're done, hopefully comfortably within the 30-minute window. So go back to Elements. See all recently used, because I've used a square recently. The one thing we've deliberately overlooked here is the fact that the Superman logo is elongated at the top and then shrunk at the bottom, so it fits that shape, almost like a 3D effect. I can't think of an easy way of creating that effect in Canva. Again, in the Adobe, the professional setup, I could do that relatively easily, but it's a case of working with what you have. I think we're going to have to just stick to a compromise on that, because that's just looking like it's sticking out like a sore thumb at the moment. There we go. I think we'll go with that. So if I take it back to 75%, we can have a look at how that graphic is taking shape. I'm quite happy with that format. I'm also quite happy that this is a little bit larger, and deliberately so, and the way it fits then to align with this point here and at the top. One thing we will need to look at is the positioning of that new logo. So I've selected everything by clicking and dragging with the mouse, and I've deselected this border, and now we should have everything minus these two text blocks. And so if we hover over them, we can see they're not part of the selected area. What I can do now is I can group those together. So that will make it easier to position that to the center, so we know we've got the same space this side as we do this side. What I might have to do is just move that down a little bit so I can access this layer, and then I'm going to move that to the top, to the front, so we don't keep selecting this when we don't want to. And we can see this is already at the front, so that's good. So for these hashtags, it's going to be difficult to get them to align neatly. So we're going to, for the title and the hashtags, I think we're going to go central alignment. Sometimes you have to select both lines by using Control-A or Command-A on a Mac, and then centrally align them that way. Nice little tip for aligning things is if you were to move the text block all the way to either side and then centrally align, we know that they're in the center of the graphic. Likewise, I'm going to do exactly the same for this title. Move it to center. I'm going to bump the font size up. I'm probably going to apply a bold effect for it. Just realized I forgot to add that to the group, so I'm just going to, I'd have to ungroup these and then regroup them. I'm not going to bother for now, but that's how you would do that. So there we have it, 29 minutes, 26 seconds, not too bad. We've got our graphic, so to share it, we can download it as a PNG file, which is what I'd recommend. This is built up mainly of vector files and flat colors, so a JPEG wouldn't be the best solution because it will pixelate it all. So we'll keep it as a PNG format and keep it as its original size because it can be scaled down for social media graphics. We click download and then we're done. So that's this week's challenge. If you've got any ideas of what you'd like me to tackle for next week's design challenge, please leave a message or get in touch via pixelhaze.academy. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you find this helpful. Cheers.